Do us a film.
Have you lost interest in my...
No, I'm just pressing on.
Okay, fine. So, Squaring the Circle, the story of Hipgnosis, spelt Hipgnosis. That, the whole thing about where that name came from being one of the things which is dealt with in the documentary about how it came up. It was apparently written on a wall, and it was either written by Syd Barrett, possibly, or by a whole bunch of other people, maybe, but nobody's quite sure. So, this is made by Anton Corbijn, who's the Dutch photographer who made Control and The American and Life. This is his first feature doc, apparently. Story of Storm Thorgerson and Aubrey Poe Powell, who were the creative duo behind the company, who went from making album covers for their mates at that point being, Dave Gilmour and Syd Barrett, to becoming one of the most excess-drenched record album sleeve designers in the world. Here's a clip.
By the mid-70s, money was really rolling into rock stars' pockets. The albums were selling in millions. The money was gushing in. Whether it was Paul McCartney or Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd or Peter Gabriel, they wanted their image to look right on the album cover. This album cover was a very important asset to them. And so our fortunes changed too. Fees accelerated. We were looking at $50,000 spent on an album cover. I felt a bit like the fifth wheel on the car. You had the four members of the band, and then there was this guy who was also attached to the car that went with them everywhere they went. Peter Grant would say, well, you better get Concorde, you better get there tomorrow morning.
So there they are, at the height of the excess, flying around on Concorde. Documentary uses, you saw black and white monochrome interviews, which include Paul McCartney, Noel Gallagher, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, Peter Gabriel, Glenn Matlock, Nick Mason, Dave Gilmour, but Roger Waters.
Oh, well, he's part of the story.
Exactly. Animation, archive images, clips from Repulsion, because there's a thing about Repulsion being shot in one of the buildings that they were working in. We hear the story about them bonding after a drug bust when one of them didn't run away and the other one was impressed, so they kind of became like us against the world. That name, Hipgnosis, which is a pun on Gnostic, meaning, which kind of, but no one's quite sure where it came from. So you go through the story of Atom Heart Mother. Dave Gilmour's very funny. He says the whole idea was we have a picture of a cow because it doesn't mean anything, but it failed because it came to mean things because people looked at it and they saw meaning in it. You hear about, the setting up a band on the run, getting all those people and pointing this lovely behind-the-scenes footage of doing that. Dark Side of the Moon, apparently Rick Wright originally said he wanted it to look like a black magic box of chocolates for no reason that anyone understands. Venus and Mars with the billiard balls. Apparently Paul McCartney's slogan was, it's all balls, which is funny. Peter Gabriel doing the cat scratch stuff. And then the story of Wish You Were Here. The fact, Wish You Were Here, the guy really was on fire. They say it was a metaphor. You get burnt by the music industry, but he really was on fire. And then it all leads up to the cover of Animals, in which what they did was they had a huge inflatable pig. They literally flew the pig over Battersea Power Station, rather than superimpose it front, took photographs of it, and the wire broke, and the pig went up into the air lanes coming into Heathrow Airport. So they had to shut down all the air traffic, and the pig kept going, and they couldn't catch it because the police marksman wasn't there to shoot it out of the sky. Finally ended up in someone's farm, and then at the end of the day, they just put it on afterwards because they didn't get the shot, so they just cut one out and stuck it on the thing. So the whole thing it's kind of brilliant. I mean, I really liked it. I liked the stories behind the album covers. And if, like me, you're somebody who, Noel Gallagher talks about, he says this thing, he said, rich people have art on the walls. Poor people have art on the floor, on their album covers. Or so, and then he says, I don't know who said that. It's so brilliant, it must have been me, which is quite funny.
Fair enough.
But I thought it was a really gripping documentary and oddly moving. So anyway,
where do I see that?
It's in cinemas and also on, but it's really worth checking out.
Because it's sort of like a lost art, really, because no one really pays any, because by the time the artwork turns up on your phone, it's a few millimeters square.
I know, but it was so lovely getting the artwork and reading it.
All right, okay. So that's a cinematic release, but presumably will turn up on screen. Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I have done.
Excellent.